The storm roared across the valley like a wounded beast, forcing rancher Cade Thorne to the ground floor of his barn. But the moment he pushed open the heavy wooden door, he froze. A tiny girl, no older than 5, sat curled between hay bales, trembling, her dress soaked in rain. Her lips quivered as she stared at him like he was the first safe thing she'd seen in years. Cade knelt slowly. "Sweetheart, where's your mama?" She swallowed hard, leaned close, and whispered, "Mama's dying outside." Cade's blood turned to ice. Without wasting a second, he wrapped his coat around the shaking child and sprinted into the raging night. The wind shoved against him like a wall, but he pushed forward, listening with every breath. "Mama! Mama!" The girl whimpered against his shoulder. Then Cade heard it, a faint, broken moan near the fence line. Lightning flashed. A woman lay collapsed in the mud, barely breathing, arms still reaching toward the barn. Cade dropped to his knees beside her. Her pulse was weak, her skin cold as river stone. Cade lifted her gently, the little girl crying, "Please save her. Please." He carried the woman back inside the barn, hands trembling, boots sinking into wet earth. The second he laid her on the straw, he knew she wasn't just exhausted, she was injured. Badly. He ripped off his gloves, checking her ribs, her forehead, the bruises along her arms. These weren't storm injuries. These were something else, something deliberate. The girl knelt beside her unconscious mother. Mama said to hide. She said bad men were coming. Cade's jaw tightened. He wrapped blankets around both of them and lifted the woman again. "Hold tight," he told the girl. "I'm taking you home." Through thunder and darkness, he rode them to his cabin, heart pounding with questions. Who hurt them? Why were they alone in a storm? By the time he reached the warm glow of his porch lantern, the woman's breathing had nearly stopped. Inside, Cade laid her near the fire and worked fast, warm. Water cloths, herbal salve, bandage strips he kept for injured cattle. The girl clung to his sleeve, crying silently. When he checked the woman's back, he froze. Deep bruises, rope burns. Someone had tied her. Cade swallowed a surge of anger. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked softly. The child wiped her nose. "Leah." "And your mama?" Leah whispered. "Her name is Arya. We were running for a long time." Hours passed. The storm calmed, but tension inside the cabin didn't. Cade sat beside the unconscious woman, brushing hair from her fevered forehead. She finally stirred, whispering through cracked lips, "Leah, where's my baby?" Cade leaned closer. "She's safe. Right here." Arya blinked weakly, tears forming as her daughter crawled into her arms. Relief washed over her face, then fear returned as fast as it left. "He'll come," she whispered. "He always comes. We have to leave." Cade gently stopped her from sitting up. "You're not going anywhere tonight. You're hurt." Arya shook her head, panic rising. "You don't understand. He took everything, money, our home, our clothes. He said if I stayed, I'd never see Leah again." Cade felt something ignite deep in his chest, a protective fire he hadn't felt since losing his own family years ago. "Who is he?" Cade asked. Arya trembled. "My husband's brother, the one who swore he'd claim us after my husband died." Cade stood and paced, running a hand across his beard. He'd seen ugly men before, but hurting a woman and child? That crossed every line. Leah tugged on Arya's sleeve. "Mama, are we staying here?" Arya hesitated. Hope flickered in her eyes, quickly swallowed by fear. "We can't stay anywhere long," she whispered. Cade knelt in front of them. "You're staying here. Both of you." Arya shook her head again. "You don't know him," Cade's voice hardened, "and he doesn't know me." Arya slept for the first time in days. Leah curled beside her mother on a makeshift bed near the fire. Cade pulled a blanket over them both and sat in the rocking chair, keeping watch. The night was quiet, too quiet. Cade kept one hand on his rifle, listening to every creak of the logs, every breath of wind. He'd lost his wife and newborn daughter 3 winters ago. Since then, he'd sworn never to get close again. But tonight, he felt something shift. By morning, the danger returned in the smallest way, a shadow moving near the barn. Cade stepped outside silently, boots barely touching the frost. He spotted footprints, heavy ones, fresh. They circled the barn, then the cabin, then disappeared toward the road. Someone had been watching. Cade's heart hardened into stone. He walked back inside and found Arya awake, sitting up painfully. Their eyes met. She saw the worry he didn't speak. "He's close," she whispered. Cade poured her warm tea. "Then let him come. He'll find out what happens when a man hurts a woman on my land." Arya lowered her gaze. "I didn't want trouble. I just wanted a quiet life for Leah." Cade sat beside her. "I know." Leah climbed onto his lap without fear. Cade blinked, surprised. The little girl pressed her face against his chest. "You're not scary," she mumbled. Something in Cade cracked, softened. "Well," he murmured, "I guess I try not to be." Arya watched the moment unfold, her eyes softening for the first time. "She hasn't trusted anyone since her father died," Cade swallowed. "Neither have I." Silence stretched between them, heavy, meaningful. Then Arya's voice broke. "Cade, thank you for saving us." He shook his head. "You saved yourselves. I just opened a door." But deep inside he knew that wasn't true. Fate had put the girl in his barn. Fate had dragged Arya into his arms, and fate wasn't done yet. Just as Arya stood to stretch, wheels crunched on gravel outside. Cade stiffened. A wagon stopped at the gate. Voices, male voices, echoed across the yard. Arya's face drained of color. Leah grabbed Cade's hand instantly, hiding behind his leg. Cade took a slow, steady breath and reached for his hat. "Stay inside," he told them. "Lock the door." Arya whispered, "Cade, please don't get hurt." He gave her a small, confident nod. "He won't lay a finger on this house." Cade stepped onto the porch and froze. 3 men stood at the gate. Not one. 3, armed, mean-eyed, and all wearing the same ranch brand as Arya's brother-in-law. The leader spat tobacco into the dirt. "We're looking for 2 strays. A woman and her brat." Cade's jaw clenched. "Ain't no strays here." The man smirked. "She belongs to us now. Hand 'em over, or we burn this place down." Cade's eyes darkened with the promise of war. The real fight had finally come. Cade stepped off the porch slowly, boots cracking frost, hands empty but posture dangerous. The men chuckled, mistaking calm for weakness. "We don't want to hurt you, old man," the leader sneered. Cade tilted his head. "Funny. I was thinking the same thing. About you." The laughter died. Cade's voice dropped to a low growl. "That woman and child aren't property. They're under my roof. My rules." The second man spat. "Then you'll die with them." Cade's eyes sharpened like steel. Before they could draw their guns, Cade kicked the gate open, slamming it into the man nearest him. He grabbed the leader by the collar, throwing him into the dirt. The other 2 reached for their rifles, too slow. Cade rolled, grabbed a fallen shovel, and struck one across the jaw. The third man fired, bullet grazing Cade's sleeve. He didn't flinch. He tackled the shooter, pinning him hard. "If you hurt that woman again," he growled, "I'll bury you deeper than winter frost." The leader scrambled up, breathing hard. "You're dead, Thorne. When her brother-in-law gets here—" Cade's fist silenced him. "He won't touch her," Cade said coldly. "Not now, not ever." The other men groaned on the ground, defeated. Cade tied their hands with rope and dragged them toward their wagon. "Tell your boss," he said, tightening the knots. "If he wants a fight, he can come himself." They drove off, rattling with fear more than anger. Cade watched until dust swallowed them. Inside the cabin, Arya had seen everything from the window. When Cade opened the door, she ran to him, gripping his arms like he'd almost vanished. "You're hurt," she breathed. Cade shook his head. "Just scratches." But her eyes brimmed with tears. "You risked your life. For us." Cade cupped her face gently. "Arya, I'd risk far more than that." She froze. No one had ever said words like that to her. Leah hugged his leg, whispering, "Don't leave us, Cade." He lifted Leah into his arms. "I'm not going anywhere." Arya's gaze softened into something fragile and warm, but fear still flickered beneath. "He won't stop," she whispered. "He'll come himself. And he's worse than those men." Cade exhaled slowly. "Good." Arya blinked, startled. Cade's expression was calm, resolute. "I don't run from cowards. And you're not running anymore either." The words wrapped around her like a promise she'd never dared dream. For the next 2 days, Cade fortified the ranch, reinforced windows, repaired fences, sharpened tools. Arya helped where she could, though her body still ached. Leah followed Cade everywhere, clutching his sleeve like it was safety itself. They cooked together, worked together, breathed together. Slowly, something beautiful grew in the spaces between danger, trust. Arya found herself smiling again. Cade found himself laughing again, and none of them said it out loud. But it felt like a family forming. On the third night, while Cade repaired a loose hinge, he caught Arya watching him. Not with fear, with something deeper, something soft. "What?" he asked gently. She hesitated. "You rebuilt this place after losing your family, didn't you?" Cade's breath hitched. "Yes." "Then why let us in?" she whispered. Cade's eyes softened. "Because when I found Leah in my barn, it felt like God put her there, like he was telling me it was time to open the door again." Arya's heart broke open. That same night, hoofbeats thundered in the distance, slow, heavy, confident. Arya froze. "It's him." Cade stepped outside, rifle in hand, muscles coiled. A single rider approached, lantern swinging from his saddle. Arya's brother-in-law, a tall, cruel-faced man with dead eyes. He stopped at the gate, glaring at Cade. "You've got something that belongs to me," he said. Cade didn't blink. "No. I've got someone you tried to destroy." A slow smile curled on the man's lips. "We'll see." The man dismounted, stepping closer. "Arya comes with me. And the girl. They're my responsibility now." Cade stepped between him and the cabin. "Responsibility doesn't leave bruises." The man's jaw twitched. "Move." Cade shook his head. "I lost my family once. I won't lose another." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Arya heard them from the doorway, and her breath caught. "Family," she whispered, tears gathering. Leah clung to her side, trembling. The man lunged for the cabin door, but Cade slammed him back so hard the ground shook. A brawl erupted, brutal, messy, fueled by years of Arya's suffering. Cade took a punch to the jaw, tasted blood, kept going. He fought like a man protecting his own heart. The brother-in-law swung wildly. Cade dodged, grabbed his coat, and threw him into the mud. "You will not touch them again," Cade roared. The man staggered up, gasping, but Cade towered over him like a mountain. The sheriff arrived just then, having been alerted by the earlier gunshot. He took one look at the bruised, raging brother-in-law and the trembling woman behind Cade. "Been hearing rumors," the sheriff said slowly, "about how you treat your kin." Arya stepped forward, voice shaking but strong. "He hurt us. He hunted us. He tried to take my daughter." The sheriff nodded grimly. "Then he's done." He cuffed the man, ignoring his shouts. For the first time, Arya breathed freely. As the sheriff's wagon disappeared down the road, silence settled. A warm, peaceful silence Arya had never known. Cade turned to her. "It's over." Arya stared at him with gratitude so deep it made her knees weak. "Cade, I don't know how to thank you." He smiled softly. "You already have." She stepped closer. "How?" Cade brushed a strand of hair from her face. "By giving me something I thought I'd never feel again." Arya whispered. "What?" "Home," he breathed. Leah tugged on Cade's coat. "Are we staying, Cade?" He knelt, lifting her into his arms. "If your mama wants to." Arya looked at the small cabin glowing warm behind them, the safest place she'd ever known. She reached out, touching Cade's hand. "We want to stay." Cade's heart swelled so hard it hurt. Leah giggled and hugged them both at once, and for the first time in years Arya felt like she wasn't running anymore. She was finally arriving. Spring arrived gently, painting the hills in wildflowers. One golden morning, Cade led Arya and Leah to the barn, the same place where everything began. He held a small carved wooden box. Arya opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a simple silver band shaped like a sunrise. Cade's voice cracked softly. "Arya, stay forever." Tears streamed down her face. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Leah cheered, wrapping her arms around them. And in that barn, a broken family was born again.